All right. In five, four, three, two, one, go. All right. Welcome everybody to Wario's Woods, a simple puzzle game with a lot of mechanics that I'm hopefully going to talk about here with some relatively easy to follow commentary. So basically, it's just like any other puzzle game out there, only instead of matching three, you're matching three with bombs instead. The goal of the rounds is to clear all of the monsters on the board, and you can win either by clearing all of your monsters or by crushing your opponent under the womp. As you can see, he just finished there with by clearing all of his monsters. In these first couple of stages, it's a lot easier and a lot quicker to do that since the stacks are relatively low and the opponents are not as difficult to beat. As we get later on in the match, you'll see the stacks they get a lot higher, and it's a lot easier to crush them under their stack. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the mechanics here. As you can see, right there, what you just saw was an egg on the opponent's side breaking, and then a whole bunch of monsters just fell. So that was because of a thing called a breakfast. And a breakfast is when you, with one bomb, clear a match 3 clear of monsters in 2 different directions. That causes an egg to fall onto the opponent's side, and you'll hear the word breakfast get said. The opponent has a little bit of time to run up to that egg and smash it, releasing a monster, and that will just release the one monster. However, if he doesn't break it in time, it'll break on its own, and then a bunch of monsters of the same color will rain down. Alright, so I just saw someone ask what makes the thwomp come down. So the thwomp comes down when you make a match of 4 or more in the same direction. So when you match 4 or more monsters with one bomb, it makes the whomp come down one monster worth. A 5 makes it drop 2, a 6 makes it drop 3, and I believe it stops out at 4 blocks down. I could be incorrect on that.
Yeah, it stops at 3 levels, so like if you drop it, if you do like a 6 combo, just clearing 6 in a row, it should drop at 3 levels. Which is really useful if you're trying to crush your enemy.
Yeah, crushing in the later game becomes the preferred method of defeating the opponents just because it's much faster. Especially if you're more consistent in getting the 4s and the 5s and even the 6s later on. You can see that's probably the primary strat that Montucky's going for here, is he's trying to make those diamonds. The diamonds, not only when you get those, that's for clearing 5 or more in a row. When you clear that 5 in a row, you also get a diamond of a random color. When you match that diamond, it causes all of the monsters on his side of that color to disappear, as well as changing all of the opponent's bombs on their side back into monsters. So that causes the opponents to panic a little bit and have to like reevaluate what they're doing, as well as what's had a little bit of trouble there. As well as they have to wait for new bombs to drop so that they can clear their monsters. Or a diagonal 3 clear. Just clearing the 3 in a row doesn't actually cause it to go up. You have to clear it either diagonally or with 4 or more in a row. When you clear 4 or more in a row, it'll actually make the opponents come down and yours go back up if yours is lowered. Is this game lore friendly? I don't believe it is. We all know that Toad is not this cool.
This is actually one of the few games where Toad's featured as a protagonist. So
yeah,
with the most recent edition of Toad's Treasure Tracker.
I did see somebody ask about the drops. So the drop pattern is random. It follows a formula So the drops are actually somewhat predictable. It's just they're very hard to predict. The starting patterns you see there are actually fixed. So it's not that the patterns are the same every time for the stage, but there are a limited number of patterns that can exist in this game. So part of getting really good at this game is getting good at remembering the patterns and getting good at the patterns as well as knowing how to react to them when you see them. So what pattern you're going to get is random, but they're the same every time.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of familiarity that goes into learning this game. Just memorizing like the best approach to each pattern.
Yeah, and you'll also notice it's not like a typical puzzle game where there's a cursor that you use to swap pieces, or it's not like a drag feature. Toad is actually considered a game piece in this. Like, he's considered himself a monster. So wherever Toad is, that it's considered one block up. And so with that, you can use Toad to execute chains, or you can use him to execute matches that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do.
Yeah, this is very much a puzzle platformer.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure, and it's probably one of the more difficult puzzle games out there. There's a learning curve that comes with it, just because it's very mechanic heavy.
Ah, come on, pick up.
So the way Toad picks these up is a little different as well. There's a couple of buttons you can push to actually pick up blocks and set them down. The A button causes Toad to pick up an entire stack of wherever he is. So you'll see him like run up the stack and then pick up all of the monsters that are at the same level as Toad is. So that's with the A button. The B button has him pick up one. And it's the same with putting them down. The A button puts down the entire stack that Toad is holding, and the B button just puts down the one that is touching Toad's hands. I just read, it seems like a pretty complicated game. It is pretty complicated, and it can get really convoluted, and if you're not familiar with the controls, then it can certainly get really confusing. So we call this the breakfast pattern right here, because there's very easy breakfasts to make right at the beginning, as long as you get the right bombs. So you can see there, Montucky actually got 3 breakfasts in that round. Alright, let's see. Another mechanic that, it's kind of subtle, but you see those, above the stars there that count how many games he's won, there are these little colored bars that fill up over time. So that is for a mechanic of where we call it the bat. It looks, to me, it looks like a raven or a bird. Canonically, it's actually a bat. So
Yeah.
what that does...
Yeah, there's been a lot of heavy debate around what that thing is. I thought it was a crow. It is indeed a bat.
So what that does is when that bar fills all the way up, the fairy is going to transform into a bat. What the bat does is it's going to, instead of dropping bombs like the fairy does, it's going to drop monsters. So the problem with that is you could have no more monsters of that color, but now this bat is dropping that color, and so now you have more monsters to clear to win. The way you lower that bar is by getting a chain, where...
Right, it like resets it almost.
Right, where you get a clear, and because of that clear, another match is made by the pieces falling, that causes a chain. And you'll see when he gets a chain, that the bar will lower on its own. I believe it's about halfway for a 2 chain. And that gives you more time before the raven shows up, or the bat.
Yeah, so the TLDR of that is it just ruins your day. The bat does.
It really does. It's not fun. You'll likely see it as we get toward the get to the end of the game. we'll see the bat show up a little bit more. And yes, diamond reaction chains are very violent. They can cause a lot of things to clear all at once. Your opponent loses all of their bombs and they all become monsters. The downside to that is everything you can do to your opponent can do back to you with absolutely no warning.
Right.
And, sometimes that makes these games go where you think you have them on lockdown and they just come back at you extremely hard.
Yeah, this game is very dynamic in that sense.
Another side effect of chains is when you get a chain, it causes an entire column of monsters to appear on their side as well. There are even more mechanics to this game. Yes, there are, and it's just one of those games where you just gotta learn it, and yeah, just when you think you know everything about it, it just happens to keep coming out to you.
Yeah, so here, this stage is a good example of how the drop pattern's pretty unpredictable. It's like it's pretty predictable. I'm waiting on a certain colored bomb.
So Clive asks, can you get rid of the bat by lowering the bar after the fact? So when you get the bat, the bar basically resets, and you have the bat as long as that bar is there. You can make the bar go up with chains as well. So chains works the same way when you have the bat there. So, right now he's at the lizard stage, Lizardon, which is, I mean, all these monsters are all these opponents are pretty bad to me, because I'm not nearly as good at this game as Montucky is. But this is where the opponents start to tend to get a little better at the game. The stacks are a little bit higher, so at this point, it's a lot more preferable to crush the enemy instead of clearing all of your monsters, just because there's a lot more monsters to clear. And while you're still getting those diamonds and clearing a mass amount of the monsters on your screen, it's just preferable to lower their stack as much as possible in order to get those crushes. So you'll see that his strategy, if he can't get a 5 on the diamond, he's going to just keep shooting for at least 4s, because a 4 is going to lower that womp just a little bit. And as you can see, like, even though the patterns are set in the way they appear, there's just some patterns that are a little bit more difficult to execute than others.
Right, I definitely have preferred patterns for this game.
The breakfast setup that you saw earlier is a really good pattern to have, just because of the amount of clearing power that's already set up for you in it.
I didn't make a chain in time, so I'm getting caught by the bat.
Yeah, so you see now, he's been clearing these stages really fast, so we haven't even really seen the bat yet. But you can see the bat here. The bat's going to be dropping monsters, and the Womp is actually going to have these laser I-beams that drop bombs at the same time. And as this game goes on, the drop pattern becomes a lot faster, so the monsters are going to drop really quickly. And that can get really overwhelming if you're not actively trying to clear things.
Alright. Yeah, there it is. Lizard down.
Alright, and you see there, he was close to crushing, but he ended up clearing all of his monsters before that, so he ended up getting the win there. This pattern's actually a very decent pattern right here, because of you have this this diagonal power right there. I think I talked about that, but that's another thing with this game is it's not also like other traditional match 3s in that you can clear things diagonally in this game. And the diagonal clearing actually gives you a lot of options when it comes to playing this game.
Nice.
That was a very, very good round there. Yeah. Seeing people joining in on the debate of whether or not that is a bat, and I'm on your guys' side. I say it's a raven or a crow or whatever. I see a couple people calling it an owl.
It very well could be.
Yeah, it's anything but a bat for sure. So you see there, he could have gone for that 4, but he actually elected to put a bomb on top of that diamond for a 5. When you clear a 5 with a diamond, you get another diamond, and you could see just how devastating that can be to the opponent. Oh yeah, Montucky has a thing that he does when he gets crush kills. We call it the stanky leg.
Alright, now I'm fishing for a bomb, which is never a decent practice, but alright, there's that.
Yeah, fishing for a bomb can really cause a lot of frustration in this game. That was actually a very good bomb to get. Because since the bombs are somewhat predictable, you can sometimes guess what's coming next, but because the formula is really complicated on how the colors of the bombs are decided, you can sometimes spend a lot of time fishing for a single color, especially when you don't really have any other moves. Alright, so here's this opponent's name is Mangy Locks. He's probably my least favorite out of all of the opponents. He doesn't have any special AI or anything, or any sort of ability that he does that other opponents don't. It's just I don't like him, and he doesn't like me. And that's kind of just the end of that. In order to keep the stream clean, I'm just gonna say that I have bad words for him that I'm not going to say.
Well said.
Cool.
He's just a giant furball.
He's a little lovable, but he's a little demon too, so I'm gonna watch him. Alright, that was not good.
Alright, so you can see the opponents are getting a little more feisty with their chains and their combos here.
It was definitely not my intention to go with that move.
It worked out though.
It did.
You're gonna see he's almost always going to try and set up 5s or 6s here. Mainly because he wants that dropping power and he wants the diamond that comes with it.
Unless that fairy drops a green. Oh, okay, good. So like Dev said earlier, a diagonal clear of any kind will result in the thwomp dropping or raising back up. And so whenever I have like the enemy crushed with maybe like 1 bomb left, sometimes the fairy will really mess me up and drop the color that the AI needs. It's so frustrating.
And especially when you're on a long round that's been going on for a while. Oh, that was a frame perfect drop there. I don't know if you saw that. If you can get a bomb in between a falling bomb right as it touches, you're gonna clear all of it, and it's gonna count like it was that many clears. It's really difficult to do. And you see that there, with the stanky leg.
Stanky leg. Alright, this is a pretty nice pattern, but
yeah, this is a good one.
I just need
any pattern that basically starts you off with a very easy 5 clear is a great pattern. And then you're pretty much at the mercy of the fairy at that point, because the fairy, I know that it's not set in stone, but I like to think that the fairy has a mind of her own and likes to intentionally not give me the piece I need to win.
Oh, absolutely. Kind of
So
messed up the
here's
beginning of this.
Yeah, here's another pretty good pattern. The fairy not cooperating though and giving the bombs that the worst possible ones.
Cool.
Alright, so you got that 5 clear there. And trying to set up here for a chain. There you go.
Cool.
Yeah, so this is Dieter, or Didar, however you say his name. This is basically where the game really ramps up in its difficulty. We call it the castle. You see Wario's face back there on the stained glass. And you're gonna get into... You realize we're not in the woods anymore. Alright, yeah, so the versus... The versus comm mode goes through several stages. So we go through, I believe, the woods, and then we go to the caves, and then the canyon, or the mountains, and then we come to the castle.
Oh man, I'm messing up here.
Yeah, the castle is the last area of the game, but he still has a few more fights to go. So you can see what just happened there is the opponent got a chain, which caused the column of monsters to pop up, but the fairy actually dropped the correct color bomb right on top of that column, and so he ended up getting a free diamond there. And of course the drop pattern now is extremely quick, so it's very easy for you to get kind of overwhelmed by drops when you're trying to set up moves. So you have to react kind of quickly and also try and clear and manage all of the nastiness that keeps falling on you. So here we can see this is kind of what happens in the castle. It gets to be a little complicated. The opponents get a little bit luckier. This is where you would want to really start being a little bit more aggressive, and it seems to be working out at this point because Dieter's kind of trapped in that little section. He can't kick anything out. He can't. All he can really do is sit there and just wait to die. And that's a good way to turn that round around. Really good job by Montucky. Alright, so now we're at Carleton. So shoutouts to It's Not Unusual. This is Carleton the Knight. I'm not quite sure where Wario picked up these henchmen from, but they're definitely like the hand-me-down henchmen. Bowser has his kids. You know,
Cool.
I don't know where Carleton the Knight came from though. That's an interesting choice of henchman. And that's a really good crush kill.
Okay, that happens sometimes. Alright, let's move right along. I'm gonna go for that 6 there. The fairy dropped so generously. Ooh,
Alright, really good clear there. So the thing with this game is when these runners that are very efficient at this game run it, it looks way easier than it actually is. And if you're not good at setting up those clears and you're not like quite comfortable with the controls, the speed that the fairy drops these at is extremely high, and so it can get really overwhelming really quick.
Sweet.
Alright, that was a good Carleton segment. moving right along.
Yeah, this is a very well-paced run here.
Freakin Bunney.
Yeah, and so here we are at Harry Hair. I don't know if it is Harry Hair. It's actually, the game lists him as Harry H. I'm only going to assume that the H stands for hair.
I'm gonna guess it stands for Howard.
Howard?
Yeah.
Alright, Harry Howard.
Yeah. Howard the Hair.
Howard the Hair.
It just makes more
Howard-
sense that way, dude. You know
Howard
what
the
I'm
Harry
saying?
Hair.
Alright. So sometimes, like, it's really hard to grab while you're falling through the air, like to grab a bomb or a monster. And so whenever I grab the wrong one, it sometimes messes me up for the whole pattern. Stinks.
Yeah, it's the controls are not as clean as other games, and sometimes it feels like it's very floaty. And so when you're trying to accurately grab a monster out from a column, sometimes the controls can get really frustrating because you're trying really hard to grab a specific one, but hitting the button at the wrong time could cause you to just completely lose that move because now there's no way to grab anything. Oh, it's Harry. It's Harry Henderson. Somebody.
Nice research. Glad we could settle that debate.
Yep. He is forever now known as Harry Henderson.
Alright, this is a friendly pattern, but I just need one little ball.
So, Frostburn asks, are you intentionally avoiding chain sometimes? I think it's more so when you're... The chains are a little tougher to see. Not like in general, it's more used to making chains in other puzzle games, so sometimes they're a little bit harder to see here. Generally, though, it's probably because he's trying very hard to set up a diamond. Diamonds are king in this game. So if there is a diamond clear to be made, he's going to go for it.
Yeah, that's definitely my priority in these later stages.
Alright, so here we are at Wario. This is the last stage of the game. This is a very, very good pace run here.
Maybe able to beat the bat. And I did. Nice. Alright.
Alright, well done.
Yeah, the bat easily adds on 30 seconds of unnecessary time.
It's because anytime you have a color on the board, bomb or monster, that color is still in the rotation of drops. So you'll see him when he's going for these diamond clears. He's also trying to get rid of the bombs as well.
Yes.
Because if there is a bomb of that color remaining on the screen, if he does get a bat, that color monster is able to spawn, which can add a lot of headache, especially when you have all those monsters cleared. So when he goes to clear a color from the board, he's going to try and clear everything of that color from the board, without leaving any extra bombs there. This is actually a very good Wario here. He's just kind of screaming through it.
Alright, this is a pretty decent pattern. There's another light blue. And then drop that.
Very nice.
Cool.
Oh, and... Oh! Ah, he somehow raised everything. Alright, I want to set up a breakfast intentionally just to mess with him.
Going for swag strats here.
Oh no. Oh yeah, I still got the breakfast. Nice.
Yeah, the breakfast strats. Yeah.
Well, I look at some bombs cleared on me. It's like, whoops. Alright, what's that? Alright. My time is coming up right now. Nice.
All right.
Well, that's Wario's Woods.
Very, very good looking.
So we didn't mention it earlier, but there's actually 2 versions of this game released on the same day. The other one's for the NES, and there are some pretty notable differences between the NES and the SNES versions. But this is the SNES versions, considering this is SNES Superstars. But I encourage everyone to try it out. It's a fun little game. It hasn't gotten a lot of attention over the years.
Despite how complicated it is actually pretty easy to pick up. The round game mode starts off very easy, and so you can easily get the mechanics down and get a feel for how it goes.
I agree. Pretty easy game to learn. Huge learning curve though, but it's still fun. There is an expert mode. We didn't really talk about that. I call it cheating mode because the game cheats. But in expert mode, your opponents start off with fewer lines of monsters and within fewer colors. So I generally start with all 6 colors of monsters. Sometimes the opponents will start with like 3 or 4 different colors. It's just really hard to beat. I would have done that for the marathon, but I'm still inconsistent with it.
Yeah, the other thing is, while you have way more colors, your stack is considerably higher than your opponent.
Yes.
A lot more to clear.
Especially in the later stages, you can die in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, you'll see Wario have 3 or 4 little lines with like 3 colors, and you'll have basically 1 line to move around in up top, and all of the colors on the board, and you just have to react as quick as you can.
Right. Well, I'm pretty satisfied with this run.
Very well done.
Yeah, thanks. I was hoping for sub 30. My personal best is 25:02 or something, like low 25. This game can be beaten to the ground though. You can get really lucky, really fast stages. So I'll probably grind this down some more the times to come.
Yeah, thank you for the run, Montucky. Really well done. Definitely destroys whatever I could have done. Thanks everyone for being here so early in the morning to watch Wario's Woods.
Yeah. This was a great run. Thanks, Superstars, for hosting us, Feasel, and the setup crew. Appreciate it. Guess that's it for us. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.